Okay, Jerry, you'll handle this question first. Public school education and higher education in Colorado each are underfunded compared to other states. How do you think that can be corrected?
In the state of Colorado, according to the Constitution, education is funded by that rule. 44% of our budget goes to education. And if you're taking nearly half of the money the state of Colorado collects, and you say education is unfunded, you make me wonder how. How could it be unfunded? I remember over there in the first grade at Fountain Grade School, they were hollering, education is unfunded. I stand here before you, 60 years later, and the same thing is going on. Education is unfunded. Why? Let's take a look at it. What are we getting? What are we getting for our money? Check the input, check the output. I think you've all read The Chieftain in the last decade. Our education system is failing our children. What are they doing with the money? Let's find out. Let's do that. At the state level, all we can do is provide the funding that the Constitution calls for. Anything above that is extra. I want every one of my kids and all of your kids, every child in this, I'm a product of District 60 schools, and I want all of them to have the best education possible that we can give them. But by golly, let's make sure the funding is going per pupil. Each school district, on average, 66% of the money they receive goes to staff and personnel. How in the world can you equate that to per pupil funding? Sorry folks, I can't see that. I want my kids to have every dollar we give them spent in the classroom, because that's the most important thing we have in this world is our human resources, our children. I believe that we can do a lot better job with the money we have. I can remember being on unemployment myself a few times when orders were down, and by golly, you had to do with what money you had. Thank you.
Leroy?
Well, education's an important topic for me because as a first-generation college student who had the opportunity, I went to undergrad and graduate school with the assistance of the government through the GI Bill. It's what afforded me the opportunity I'm able to give to my children today. And so when these somewhat facts are distorted, let me remind people that Colorado is currently ranked number 49th in funding. And the question has to be is, as a community, are we okay with that? There's no doubt that we have to continue to analyze and evaluate teachers and do all we can to support students, but we just can't allow this to continue on its current trend. There's nothing more important than educating our young workforce. And if we're not being able to provide them with skills and trades that they're ready for the job market, then it's one of our #1 goals that we're falling short on, which is jobs and the priority for jobs. Because if we don't have an educated workforce for those employers to then hire these young students or even adults who have been laid off, it's an obligation we have as a community. And so it's something that I take very seriously. As an educator, I have firsthand experience. And in this community where I teach at Public Community College, I understand that the issues are bigger than just funding. It's the support network, and we as a community have an obligation to continue to support the efforts of our educators.
Jerry?
Unlike Mr. Garcia, I went to the School of Mines with a small scholarship from Local Union 3267 Steelworkers and a grant and aid from the athletic department, where I had to work as a janitor and as a scullery maid in the cafeteria. That included a lot of work with the cleanup and the tough stuff, folks. But one of the things that I learned was if you get up off your butt and go to work, the effort that you can make will earn you an education. You don't need to depend on the government to hand you a free ride to get an education. One of the things you do need to do, evidence with the grant and aid, I had to work. I do believe that everybody needs a job so they can earn a wage to go to school. In the old days, you could get a job at the steel mill, go Batty's or Florman Manufacturing in the summer, drywalling, and you made enough to pay your tuition to go to school. You didn't need to rely on the government to pay your way. Thank you.
Leroy?
Thank you, Mr. Henson. Well, this is an important issue for me because the work that our veterans do fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam, let me just underscore that that wasn't free. That wasn't free. Our U.S. Constitution is not free. And we have an obligation to ensure that people are educated in this country. That's my philosophy. That's important in this community. That's a clear distinction between my opponent and I. The VA allows for the opportunity for people to be educated. What better gift can you give than to give someone the gift of education?
Right.
I agree with Leroy 100% on that VA bill, the GI bill, giving the GIs a chance to go to school. This campus was built with housing that was hauled down here from Camp Carson, where my wife was born, and it was built because of the GI Bill to provide these GIs with an education. I agree with what Leroy has to say there, but we're not talking about higher education in our job force. We're talking about our children, one of the most valuable assets any community can have. And we're talking about educating our children in the proper manner so that they will graduate from school without the need for remedial education in reading, writing, and arithmetic, so that an employer can come to them and say, hey, you're qualified without any of that, you've got a job, come to work for me. And that's where I think we need to spend our money and make sure that our children have a real education from the first grade all the way through this graduation in high school. Thank you.
Leroy?
Well, it's important to note that if we're not educating students at the K through 12 level, we're not preparing them for college. And so we have to do a better job, and I think we're moving in that direction. There are efforts at the state level which I hope to champion and work to bring real results so that we can achieve this, because we can no longer allow for us to have these performance gaps.
That's true. Okay, Leroy, you'll handle this question first. What will you do if elected to protect Southern Colorado's water supply and quality?
Well, water's important, and especially in Southern Colorado and Pueblo, water's the lifeblood of which this community operates and has potential for future development. So I have the firsthand experience of being on Pueblo City Council and working with the Supreme Board of Water Works, which does a great job every single day ensuring that the water we have in this community is ready for drinking and that it's ready for development when we so choose to help this community continue to grow. And so I want to continue to be that type of a champion for water.
Okay. Jerry?
I learned in Fountain Grade School that we live up here in a high plains desert. One of the most important commodities in the desert is water. I've been drinking, cooking, and bathing in Arkansas River water since 1949. Not all at the same time, though. And it is liquid gold. We have water rights laws in the state of Colorado that have worked very well down through all the decades and years that we've had those water right laws, and that's what we need to champion. We need to keep those in place so that we have a basis for the use of our water that isn't interfered with by the legislature or by a petition for a referendum or anything like that. We have in place what we need to control and handle our water. And as an Arkansas River Valley boy, I do believe we need to keep our river and our basin. I do believe we need our water for industries. If we're going to have jobs here, you need two things. You need electricity power and you need water. And believe me, that this place, thank the Pueblo Water Board for what they did acquiring water way back when. We've got it available. We've got 2 new industries coming in here now because we do have the water to support them. We have the other infrastructures as well, but we're talking about water here, folks. And in a high plains desert, that's what you're going to have to offer anybody to move here, to live here, to work here, to build an industry here, to build a college. There's only one thing that we can do to keep that. Stay alert, be on our toes, and make sure you have somebody up there in the legislature that is championing your community and your area of this state. Something does exist south of Denver. I don't want to go to Aurora or Colorado Springs and take a shower in Arkansas River water.
Well, one of the examples I think I could cite as an opportunity to champion, and having the firsthand experience of sitting on various committees like PACOG and Public City Council, is the current feasibility study that is being looked into Fountain Creek Dam. I mean, it's unacceptable that we would continue to allow runoff from Colorado Springs to impact this area and this region in the way it has. And so I want to give you specifics. I think there's opportunities to move forward on items such as that. That's something I'm looking to help usher, and that's a specific that you can count on.
I agree with Leroy. We need to control that Fountain River. Living on the east side, I've experienced several floods. And it's not a very pleasant thing, folks, watching that thing rage over the top of the 8th Street Bridge. One of the things that he suggested was a dam. When I was a 4th grader in a Fountain grade school, I thought, boy, they should build a dam across this thing so this don't happen again, and hey, maybe we'd have a place to go swimming. We didn't have swimming pools in Pueblo back then, but any pool of water that you could get into when you were a youngster back then was a lot of fun to get in. Now, the city of Colorado Springs, they did make a commitment to control their flood water. When you make a contract and a commitment, you better stick with it and you better follow through. And I realize that being a state legislator, that may not be in our bailiwick. That could be with the city council, with the county commissioners, but anything that it takes to create water and the safety of my old east side, I'm all for it. Let's take care of our community first.
Okay, Jerry, you'll handle this question first. The prison industry in southern Colorado has taken some really big hits in the last few years. Do you have any suggestions on how to use those closed or underused facilities?
Closed and underused facilities generally indicate a lack of need. And if it's a correctional facility, that's a good thing. You don't have people committing crimes being incarcerated. And it does affect the communities where they were built. We do need to reassess what we can use those for. They're great sites. They are well set up. And I'm sure that anybody who is looking to build an industry or a plant or something like that would love to find new facilities. I'm sure we can find maybe more medical facilities that would like to use that. Maybe clinics. We do need to get our health care back to the clinic level, back to the more efficient and effective way to deliver it. I think they would be a great facility to do that. And there are perhaps, and I hated to see the VA hospital go down there because that was a prime job. I mean, that facility was the perfect thing to do the job it was built for. That was a crime when they changed that, when they did away with that. I don't know if you people have ever dealt with the VA hospital, but it's not very pleasant. But that one facility was one of the jewels in the crown in the state of Colorado. And if there's anything we can do to make those facilities available for medical help, for industry, then by golly, I'm going to see that we do it. Because the reason I'm running for